Well, good evening, Black Orlando Tech family. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. Let's get into this conversation about cybersecurity. We've got a dynamite panel tonight. Go ahead and like and share this live so that others outside of our community can see and get into the conversation. We're going to go ahead and kick things off with an introduction from our esteemed executive director, Rose Legis. Rose, what's going on?
Evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Super excited about this panel of amazing, super intelligent individuals in cybersecurity who are going to bring you some just very necessary information. So we're Black Orlando Tech. We're a nonprofit tech organization. We're committed to accelerating the minority economic advancement through workforce, small business, and socioeconomic development by increasing the awareness, activities, network, and resources for local minorities who pursue careers or entrepreneurship in technology. So wanted to go over a couple of our, wanted to also thank our program grant partners and also our community champions. Thank you for just believing in us and continuing to, provide us with the resources that we need to provide the programs to our community. All right, BOT's next upcoming events are laid out here. Want you guys to know of those that are coming up and just mark those in your calendars. On September 29th, that's the last Wednesday of this month, we will have our monthly Tech Talk. We'll be focusing on the role of tech in healthcare, especially during this time with everything that's going on. It's a needed conversation that we need to have and look into. In October, the Tech Startup Series will have our pitch competition. Again, the Tech Startup Series is a 4-month program focused on providing the resources, tools, and expertise needed for Black and brown tech founders to build that solid business foundation that they need to take their startup or business to the next level. Registration for this program is still open. So if you are interested, if you have a startup, a small business, you need assistance or coaching and some of the business basics like business plan, financial strategy, pitching, creating a pitch plan and pitch deck, definitely connect with us and look into joining the program. We've have all a great amount of coaches and experts coming in, and we have recorded content, live workshops, and so definitely reach out to us if you're interested in participating. The week of October 4th, our fall 2021, the last cycle of our tech cohorts begin. This cycle will focus on advanced training on the tech skills and also certification. Again, look into this. We've posted some information through our social media platforms. The tech areas that we have are Salesforce administration, AWS, cybersecurity, digital marketing, and more. So definitely look into that. And if you're looking to get certified, to get some training and get certified in a tech skill, definitely look into that and sign up. On October 15th, we'll have Synapse Orlando. Synapse is a innovation and tech conference that is located. They have 3 main locations. Miami, Tampa, and now Orlando. This is, I believe, the third conference that they're having here in Orlando. So definitely encourage you all to join, check them out and register, either as an exhibitor or attendee. This year, Black Orlando Tech is a partner for this with Synapse Florida for this conference. So definitely, look into it. We'll have some of our community members and also folks from our bot team that will be presenting or doing workshops at the conference. So definitely look into that and join us. On October 27th, Tech's role in the service and hospitality industry. Again, another needed conversation, especially with the shift that's happened in both of those industries due to the pandemic. We want to see what tech's role is in both industries and have a discussion on those. And then finally, in November, we will be having the Orange County / Orlando Spark event that will be powered by Black Orlando Tech and Ford Cities. The Orange County Orlando engagement that we have with Ford Cities is initiative that we have where we're looking into the small business ecosystem here in Orange County and Orlando, and how it is in the perspective of those from underrepresented minority position. And we're doing assessments on the ecosystem, some surveys. The Spark event will give results of those surveys and also next steps to providing some solutions to improve the ecosystem for those underrepresented individuals. So again, if you're interested in finding more information about that, feel free to check out our website or connect with me, and I'll give you some more additional information on that. I think that is it for our events. You're muted.
Thanks so much, Rose. Now that I'm not on mute anymore. Thanks so much for the overview of our upcoming events. We'll be sure to drop the links for all of the event registrations and details in the chat momentarily. All right, now let's get into this conversation. Welcome, everyone. I see some comments in the chat. Keep them coming. Keep the questions coming. Our panel is ready to take all of your questions, and I'm really excited to be here tonight. So we'll do a few introductions before we get into the conversation. My name is Kelda. I am the Communications and PR Chair for Black Orlando Tech, and I'll be serving as one of your moderators this evening. I'll go ahead and throw it over to Gabe, who will introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I've been working with Black Orlando Tech for about 2 years now as one of the project leads. I'm extremely excited to have all of these bright cybersecurity professionals with us, not putting out fires out there, and finally taking some time to just talk to us about all the amazing things that they do. So super great to have everybody here.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabe. Regine, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thank you for unmuting me. Hi, everyone. My name is Regine Bonneau. I'm CEO and founder of RB Advisory, #Made in Orlando. We're a full-service compliance and cyber risk management firm, serving from the healthcare, finance, technology, from the small to the enterprise and the supply chain. And looking forward to participating with my co-panelists in this discussion.
Awesome. Thanks, Regine. Nikki.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki Grayson, and I work at the National Institution of Standards and Technology. Most people may know it as just short for NIST. It's a sub-agency under the Department of Commerce, and NIST is really known for their standards and all the guidance that we put out. I am currently a project lead for our supply chain assurance project, and then our autonomous vehicles research, where we really focus on how to mitigate cyber attacks within those spaces. And I also work on our privacy engineering program, and I'm helping them with developing privacy risk management. And I definitely look forward to the conversation today, as Regine mentioned with my co-panelists.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nikki. We're excited to have you and get your insight tonight. Jonathan.
My name is Jonathan Lightfoot with Symbiont Incorporated. Symbiont is a 36-year-old family-owned and operated IT company. We do primarily government work with the federal and the state government, but we do some work with local government as well. We also have a department of assessments where we perform IT assessments on networks for cybersecurity. We specialize in the DoD CMMC standard framework, as well as work with NIST 800-171, 853, HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, and what have you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. Excited to get your insight tonight. And finally, Ebony.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I am the CEO of Above Promotions. We are a marketing tech and a crisis communications for cybersecurity incidents company in the Tampa, Florida area. I've co-authored published research on human error-related information, password securities and password authentication, as well as I'm one of the directors for the Tampa Bay InfraGuard Alliance, which is under the FBI, which heads the protecting the infrastructure for 14 different industries here in the U.S. In addition, I'm also a part of the Synapse Summit board. So I'm glad that Black Orlando Tech will be participating in the upcoming event. So I'm so glad to share with my other esteemed colleagues and looking forward to getting all of you guys' questions that have tuned in.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ebony. So as you guys can see, we have a jam-packed panel with a lot of expertise and insight to share with us tonight. So Ebony, I kind of want to throw the first question to you, and then I'd love to get some other insight as we go along. But what do you think, to kind of start off our conversation, what do you think is the most prominent cybersecurity threat, specifically related to small businesses and tech startups? Like, what should small businesses and tech startups be really zeroing in on right now?
Oh my gosh. I know that I'm probably going to get it, but that old adage of go hard, go fast, and fix stuff later is crippling to startups. So a lot of startups, they can't afford developers here in the US, and not saying that every developer knows how to code with security in mind, but a lot of startups are using overseas developers. They don't have anyone checking to make sure the code is secure. There's no one pen testing. There's no one doing the penetration testing to see if their software is hackable. It's a matter of, let me see how quickly I can build so I can gain more venture capitalists to get interest in me and be able to raise funds. And so I see that a lot with startups. I get a chance to mentor through different accelerated programs here in the state and judge competitions. And that's one of the main things that I see, that companies that are just beginning, small companies or startups, in the tech space, they're going to these no code options with trying to piece everything together with no thought process at all with what's the security about. So I think that's one of the biggest issues.
Thank you so much for that. Regine, I saw you nodding your head. Oh. You agree? You agree with Ebony on that?
Yes, I agree with Ebony on that. And again, the how fast to market, and we've still seen the same thing happening, and also not properly understanding the industry that we're going to service. The end client is very key, especially when you are developing a software that is going to supposedly enhance any efficiencies or product that the companies have. So especially with healthcare and finance, fintech is famous for that. And now we also have healthcare, so we see that a lot. And you're never too small. I always say, the minute you register your business, if it's Sunbiz or any other state registration, and you create a website, you are a target, right? And usually it's not you. Usually it's the end person that you're going to be servicing. So yes, the code reviews are not a priority, and they should be. And a lot of, as we do report security by design, just like we talk about privacy by design, data privacy by design is the same concept. So very, understanding that now. Better to put it in that now than having me break it, right? Which is fun for me, but At the end of the day, yes. And come to the small business, same concept. You're not too small. You're the supply chain. Guess what? One person shop to from zero. I call it zero because the founders don't really matter, right? Until you can actually pay yourself. But from that zero to that your first employee to the second, you are a target. And as we've seen over and over again these past recent months and before, you serve as the conduit to the larger person that not me when I say we, doesn't have to sound like I'm doing it, but that the hackers or it comes from espionage, everything that comes into play that they're looking to get in. It's the trust I always say is broken. So guess what? We're here to bring that back in. So that concept of I'm too small. No. The minute you put your name on something, you become a target. And that's where you need to start thinking about security. Just like I said, it's your financial planning and your business strategy planning. And, Ebony, we've said that, your marketing and all of that. Guess what? Now cybersecurity is part of that plan. And investors are starting to ask about that. Because they're buying that data, and we're seeing that. So that's why now it's more than ever, it's important to start thinking about that process. I don't want to be here all day, but go ahead.
No, that's great. Great insight, Regine. Thank you for that. Gabe, I'll toss it over to you if you wanted to kind of present the next question for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. That was great. That's true. Everybody's moving so fast, not really thinking about all those back doors they're leaving open, right? So Jonathan, I just wanted to ask, what do you generally attribute the lack of cybersecurity protections in modern businesses to? What do you think might be the reason that businesses aren't really protected?
It goes back to traditional, what I call the three pillars of why companies don't do this. And it's costs, not a priority, as well as not being mandated or required. Yes, cybersecurity can be expensive. However, if you're developing software and you start off with a security mindset from the very beginning, you're using a security framework, you can reduce those costs. A lot of times, companies right now are having to refactor or re-engineer their software or their products and services. It's not a priority. What did we see last year when the pandemic hit and people were forced to work from home? We saw companies jumping to Zoom. And as a cybersecurity professional, I remember like, oh my God, no. And then what happened 2 weeks later, we started hearing about Zoom bombing. And when the truth came out, everybody, Zoom came out and said, yeah, security was never a part of our framework. We never thought about it, right? So that was not a priority to them. And third is, it's not mandated or required, but it's starting to change. One of the things I mentioned was the CMMC, the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification that DoD is implementing, where come 2026, if you're not have a CMMC certification, you cannot bid on DoD contracts. That's going to affect approximately 300,000 of the members that we call the defense industrial base. So they're starting to require that. So there's going to be a lot of companies in the coming years that are going to either have to conform or not. And it's not just DoD. We just got word that we know that the GSA said that they want to go forward with it. The state of Georgia said they want to do it, as well as Department of Homeland Security. If you get into the government contracting space and you want to get one of those schedules, Schedule 70, for example, if GSA decides to move forward with it, that's going to affect everything. So we're coming around to getting that mandated, that requirement. But just like Regine said earlier, one thing I can foresee is the barrier to entry for starting small businesses. Part of that's going to be in the future a requirement around, is your system secure? Is your network secure? And if not, you may find yourself out of, your business plan might be a great idea, get thrown out the water.
Yep.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to throw it back to you, Ebony. Do you find that the companies that you work with are well prepared? Do they have disaster recovery plans in place? I guess not. What do you think?
So usually the plan comes after something has happened. And that's one of the things that is probably one of the most annoying parts about working in this space is that, I mean, I would love to be able to walk in and be like, well, this happened, but we already had our our preparation and our response, and we already know what we're going to do. And now we just need you to help with the continued part of the recovery. That's usually not the case. It's usually now we have to scramble together. Now I have to be a part of helping to bring all of the different departments together to have these conversations. And people, it's in the preparation part, they think about just that technology piece, but they forget the customer service piece. They forget the receptionist piece. So if something goes wrong, who are they calling first? The receptionist is going to be the first one to hear something. The customer service rep is going to be someone to hear something too. So by leaving these departments out in the preparation department, it's and the preparation period is a bad idea. So usually when people are in the midst of everything and in the response phase, they're not even thinking about everyone they have to go back in and bring in. So it's one thing to build and have this response plan, and you're in the middle of it and you only think of it from like, this is the thing we should say from the legal standpoint, the technology standpoint, the marketing standpoint. And then you fail to communicate with everybody else who has some type of public facing role, who are on the front lines, who are internal for employees, because that's another situation, because it's not just those customers, but it's the employees, because who knows, that information could have been hacked inside, could have been employee data as well. So there's a lot of different avenues that could be better addressed, and everybody can be better brought together and on the same page, from the executives all the way down, even to the janitorial staff. I mean, everybody needs to be of the security frame and the mindset and what to say. And I think that in the responses, it's too late. And then having not done any type of tabletop exercise to prepare, you're already too late. So I laugh because most of the time, I would say 90% of the time, people have nothing in place.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think that it's cybersecurity is really kind of a team effort, but it seems to kind of escape a lot of modern businesses that's what's really required. Regine, what's your experience with companies and disaster recovery?
Well, the fun thing is I don't think we even ever get to talk about disaster recovery because there's nothing in place, right? So yes, echoing what Ebony said, all of these you encountered them till today, and really either they have it or they don't know what it's called, or it's hiding somewhere. So you're looking at maturity level of the organizations, or they don't know exactly what does that mean, right? All they know, disaster recovery is unplug, right? But disaster, that's your incident response plan, and then now you have a disaster recovery that follows into it as well. But no, a lot of it is because one, they don't understand what that means, right? Because if you don't have anything in place, even for security wise, what is it that you're going to understand when it comes to the disaster recovery? And how do you move forward with that? I always, say that as you're putting your security infrastructure in place and realigning what you're doing, policies and procedures, it's best to implement that as well, because what it's doing is documenting your processes so that the next time that when that happens, someone can just pick it up and then execute. And it's always it's not fun. I say it's fun, but it's really just to make it like something worth that we want to get into and you're doing. But it's not fun when you in a triage for 72 hours or if not longer before you even get relief, right? And that's looking at a larger scope of the organization. Now, as a small business and even just a tech startup, right? Imagine not even understanding where things are and what you need to do, and a breach happened. The numbers are real. You're done, right? All of that, what you've done, what you put in place, is it's over. So the mere process of just I would say Google it, and we joke and laugh about Google, but guess what? That is an information gateway. Try to understand, appreciate. I always say, um, assimilate to the security mindset. It's not. It is a large thing that you need to do, but guess what? Understanding it and knowing where you sit, and now is very important. And then now understanding what is really disaster recovery. It's not hurricanes, right? There's more to it than that, because we've seen recently, last couple of years, what happened in Pensacola, right? Everything that was, even the backup to the backup, was wiped out because no one understood what's the other redundancy element that you have to put in place. So yes, do companies have it in place? Not really. We just need to start operating on what is security first, and then we get into the disaster recovery aspect of it, because they don't understand what that means. Is it just to get my computer and leave? Can I go back? No, there's more to it than that, right? Is it that I know that this computer is not working right now because it's on lockdown, but how do I start off on another computer, right? Where do I pull down the information? We all have iCloud. We all have some form of cloud services where we back up our information. Those are the type of concept that you need to start. Where's the redundancy start? And what do I have in place that if I have 10 computers, devices, all of them are on lockdown because of ransomware, do I have something in the back end that I can spin off, right? Please do not spin it off on the same internet connection, because this is how it gets in, right? So all of those are thought processes, because people have done it. Oh yeah, we can spin off. You spin off from the same network that got hacked. So how does that fall into play, right? So, but there's a lot to understand. It may seem like a daunting task, but this is where it is something that must be done, because when it happens and you can't recover and it's too late, the cost is higher, right? That's one. And then you can never recover. If you can't, then what's the point, right? I always say, why did you start this business or concept if you're not doing in the back end to protect it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something very important to think about as a business owner. And I know, Jonathan, you wanted to add a comment to that?
Yeah, we talk about disaster recovery, but back when I started, and this is something that happened last year with the pandemic, we used to call it BCDR, Business Continuity Disaster Recovery. There were two separate parts, right? Disaster recovery is, hey, the incident occurred, how do we get back? But now, as we saw with the pandemic, that wasn't a DR incident, right? That was a business continuity. The computers are still working fine. However, that's the other thing you have to think about too with the business and with the software, if you're a tech company, is how do I keep making money during that time? Because when you have to flip that switch and go through a DR, as you all have heard, it's expensive. So during that time I'm down, how do I continue keeping my business open? And if I don't have that mindset too, so the BC part is also very, very important to think about. And I agree, with what has been said already. I like tabletop exercises, but for my clients, I tell them we need to do a full scale simulation, not just tabletop. Make sure that the people are supposed to be involved are involved. Is that costly? Yes. However, when there's an incident, everybody's sitting there saying, I am so glad we did that.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, thank you so much. Excellent, yeah. So Nikki, I'm gonna go ahead and go over to you and ask your experience on how exactly you might identify a cybersecurity threat and attack. How do you even know that something's happening behind the scenes?
Yeah, so as everyone may know, there are like amounts of cyber threats and attacks that happen each year. And I will start off with just like stating that like a cyber threat and a cyber attack are different. So a cyber threat is an event that may potentially impact the enterprises like network systems and their operations. So it hasn't occurred yet, but it's possible that it may occur. So proactive measures will need to be in place. So some ways on trying to identify the threat, some things that you can possibly do is conduct a risk assessment perform routine vulnerability scans, manage and identify like hardware and software versus to ensure that they have been updated with the latest patching. And you want to make sure that you also educate the employee and the user community about like cyber attacks, like about cyber threats, excuse me. And making sure that they know the difference of what is a cyber attack and what is a threat, and kind of like how I'm explaining now, the like what are some different ways that you can mitigate them and stop them from actually occurring. In addition, you will want to like install antivirus software, and you want to work with your IT shop to determine like what is their current threat posture. And as far as the cyber attack, those are things that has already happened. So it's when someone or a group disrupts or disables or takes control of a computing environment and infrastructures and destroy the integrity of like the data or steals control information. So just to name a few examples, and some of my panelists has already talked about that, is like ransomware is one, malware, phishing, denial of service, DOS. Those are some of the types of cyber attacks. And a couple of ways to identify cyber attacks is by doing like routine network scans, monitoring the firewall traffic, and looking to see like if there's any abnormal behavior on the network. You also want to make sure that you're evaluating your network logs as well.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, there are definitely some differences. There's nothing better than really user education. Really, that's the root of it all. So thank you so much for sharing that. Absolutely. And Kelda, is it right that we have a question?
We do, yes, from Ian. They're on the screen.
All right. So I know it may be difficult to say which languages or stacks are best for security, but are there any that stand out as particularly bad when it comes to security? Jonathan, you want to go ahead and take that one?
I get that question all the time. And, the one thing I tell people is everything is at risk now. I don't care how secure you may think it is. There are vulnerabilities being popped up all of the time. So to sit back and say, oh, this stack is better than this stack, that is kind of being disingenuous. It's not the truth of it and all. One thing that I advise my clients is, when it comes to security, especially cybersecurity for your organization, get a framework. You should be working off of a framework. We've heard several things so far on the panel about, password protection, reviewing logs and things like that. But if you look at a lot of the cybersecurity frameworks out there, and I'm referring to things like NIST 853, NIST 800-171, the CMMC standard, ISO 27000-1, I believe. Those are frameworks that actually, when you implement those and you follow along with that, you're going to do pretty good no matter what stack or technology or language you're working with, because it's going to cover the things that you need to look at. So anyone who was looking for like what's the easiest one to implement, I would caution you against that and really just say, look at the framework that you're working within. If you're developing software, am I developing it to the standards of the framework that our organization has adopted or has been accredited for?
Thank you, Jonathan, for that. So Ebony, what do you think small business owners or individuals even can do? Nikki actually mentioned something about antivirus, so that's one step that's really important. But what do you think that they can do to really protect themselves against cyber threats and attacks and data loss ultimately?
So I want to start with open source. And I know my tech friends are going to just like really want to get on me after this conversation, but building your business around open source and not understanding, there's a lot of people that do ethical white hacking on open source projects. And so you can easily go out and see like what type of issues may have come up in using an open source software. I'm not going to say you should use it or not. That's not what I'm going to say. But I would say that is one thing. The other thing is when you're looking for so when clients come to us looking for marketing technology to put into their marketing stack, we're looking at where is that company located? Like what type of regulations are they surrounding them? In addition to like who's on their team, like how seriously is that company taking cybersecurity threats, and of course passwords. And so I'm going to say like thinking about the two-factor authentication, passwords, how long they were. The research that I did was based on like who could remember passwords more. And that's why I really think that password managers are very important to have. Sometimes just for kicks and giggles, when I'm trialing software, I purposely use like certain passwords just to see what'll happen. And there's been incidents that literally like when it was like, oh, this company was hacked, and then they were under a layer where some other company where I trialed, they were bought up underneath this company, and that's where the password came from. I never use the software again, but that goes to show you that some of the companies where you're going and doing all these trials with, what are you leaving open when you're done with the trial? What type of passwords are you using? Again, I want to go back to open source. I don't want to say, if you should use it or not for your company, but I would say that. But if you're going to be evaluating software, whether it's the software that you use to actually build upon your product or the software you're using just to run your business, whether it is the security for the doors in the building, the security cameras, just all of that type of setup, you really need to think long and hard, like how will this possibly portray or play out if in a hack? And so I think that a lot of business owners and in particular startups aren't thinking about how this one particular software that they're going to purchase and or test out and or use the freemiums, and particularly how that's going to play out. So I think if you keep those software things in mind, you keep the passwords in mind, two-factor authentication, those type of things you keep in mind, you'll do well. And it doesn't hurt to have someone in your team to join a security organization, so that way you can keep it on top of mind and be updated with like the latest of what's going on.
Great, thank you. Yes, thank you so much for that. Regine, how about you? What do you think? Is there anything that you'd like to add to that?
It's like my mic is off. We've spoken about, businesses and employees, right? Employees are always your first line of defense. So I always say education is key, right? Because understand the education, what is the education that you need to provide to your employees, and also pay attention to the same education you're giving to your technical team is not the same education you're going to be giving to the receptionist. So role-based education, awareness training, constant communication processes of what's happening is very key, and it's cost effective. If you do research and get the some companies out there that are providing solely focused on that education awareness training, that's number one. And how do you start preventing attack, right? Aside from the company embracing cybersecurity as a real viable threat to the livelihood and the legacy that they've built. And then data loss, right? We're looking at, okay, well, what are some of the primary things about data loss that we've seen? One is role-based access to your files. And I do understand a small business aspect, and we've all done it, right? You have that one right-hand man or gal, right, has access to everything. And now guess what? As you grow and then you're dividing the roles and responsibilities from that one or two person, you need to also remove some of their access to certain files and information that they have. Because I will tell you, if we're hacking, I'm going to go straight to start with the low-hanging fruit that we call the least privileged person, right? If you're applying least privileged aspect, the receptionist, the person that's been there the longest, is the one that I'm going to go after. Why? because they usually have the key to the kingdom, because no one is thinking that this sweet little person that's been here is not doing anything. And guess what? It's not them. All I need is the credentials, right? So that's why we always say education, start understanding the access control that you have within your company, who has access to it. I always say the same way you protect your bank account, you're not going to give the access to your bank account, your password to someone else, while you're also doing the same thing with your business. And there are certain, preventing certain scanning materials that you can, solutions that you can use. That is very cost effective. If spending $69 to get a full scan on a continuous basis of your devices, and now you can do that on an enterprise or a small business aspect, why not spend that? And when I say $69, it's per year. So if you do the math, how much are you really paying for that? So there are solutions out there based on your business. So just because you're seeing the likes of Chase spending $500 billion or $500 million into their security, they understand the assets that they're protecting. So you're not going to be purchasing the same type of solution. That's why we have others that are built for small businesses and tech companies that are starting out, so they could start understanding, start scanning, and doing what they need to do. Those are some things that I would say to start protecting yourself. But education is not one time, it's repetitive, right? So it's a continuous process. All of these things are continuous process that you have to do and monitor. And if anything, consult with a professional, consult with a practitioner. Why not? What do you have to lose, right? Just ask the right question, and then you'll get the right answers.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So Nikki, I want to ask you, because I know that you started with a background in criminal justice, which I think is really cool too. Personally, I also have started there. So what do you think about the shortage in cybersecurity, professionals? Why is there such a shortage right now? Would you say that the barrier to entry is high? What's really going on with that?
Yeah, and thank you for the question. Yeah, so I think well, let me just before I start, like, I actually read like a newsletter this morning, and it stated that like in every 39 seconds a cyber attack occurs from somewhere in the world, and each year this number, just as we've seen that this number most likely will decrease as bad actors are getting smarter. So I think it's a shortage currently in the field, because sometimes it could be some students are maybe not exposed to it at a younger age, so they don't know about it until later maybe in life, and then they find out about it, and then it's a shortage because as I mentioned, as bad actors are getting smarter, then we have to keep trying to make sure that we have a skilled workforce, and sometimes depending on the company's budget, it may be sometimes a challenge to make sure that their staff has the updated training, or the training that they need to succeed. And I think some things that could help with trying to help with the shortage is making sure that that people are exposed to this at a very early age, and they get that hands-on experience. And as you mentioned about my background, I definitely got in I took a non-traditional path in the field. I really, just to share a little bit about me, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an attorney, so that's kind of why I majored in that field. But then when I got out, I really wanted to do something else, and I wanted to use my legal background and do something with technology. So based on my experience, I was later able to get exposure to a technical field and was given the opportunity at my job. And the barrier to me to get into, I think it really depends on that person's interest. And again, as I mentioned, the exposure to the field, as opposed to someone that may not be familiar with the field prior to them even learn about it. And and I would say too that some people's path is different. So everyone is not going to have the same path. Like my path is totally different, and I feel like there is no one way to get into the security fields. Like some people may get certified, some people may go do a boot camp, and then other people may do like a more formal education route. But I really think it kind of depends on the person, and then also them getting exposure to it at a very early age.
Awesome. That's really awesome. Thank you for sharing about your background too. It's very cool that you made that transition. I know Ebony, you wanted to add on something to that.
Yeah, I think it's important for us as professionals in there. So we talk about the non-traditional route. So my undergrad is in engineering, and then I pivoted into marketing. And like I said, I had published research in this field. So for me, I wanted to bring that information forward and use it in a non-traditional way. What I think, though, is that we as professionals, we as underrepresented people, we have to go back. And so that's why I committed to being a part of USF Cyber Education's program as an advisory board member, so we can target K through 12. And I think that it's up to all of us to go back and show our younger, the next generation, what they can do and how it could look. Because just as Nikki has said, you could start one way, go to another way. You could go through 4 years, you could go through a boot camp. There's different ways that you can educate. And I think that it's up to us. And I truly commend Bot for making sure that we have this conversation. And I'm hoping that even people who are watching now may think that they could do something, whether it's a course or two or something, to get into the field. But I think especially for our community, we need to make sure, and I say our community, as in the Black community, we need to make sure that we are sharing this information so that way we can take it to the older generation, those who are being preyed upon via phone calls, via emails, via their phone, as well as the younger generation. So I really commend Bot for what they're doing. And I think that it's up to all of us to continue to look behind us for those that are coming up and help them to point them in the right path and help get them to different camps that are going on through summers, during the school year, anything that we can do, but also think about our older generation and how we can go back and help to protect them.
Excellent. Yes, I agree. Absolutely. So I know we have a question. What is the question? Let's see. Okay. Oh, that one's for you, Jonathan. You want to go ahead and answer?
Okay, so Luna, it's for oh wow, that's a pretty loaded question. What does CMMC mean to the small business if you have a DoD contract? By 2026, you must have what they call a CMMC level certification. It could be either from level 1 to level 5. It all depends on the type of data or that you're going to be handling, be it FCI, federal contractor information, or CUI, controlled and classified information. Basically, the long and short of it is, if you don't have a CMMC level certification by 2026, you will not be eligible or able to bid on DoD contracts, which for a lot of companies, especially small businesses, could be devastating, right? So basically, DoD is saying, hey, we need to take positive control of this situation. Before they use something called NIST SP 800-171 self-certification or accreditation. Now they're saying you now have to have a third party, what they're calling a C3PO, certified third party assessment organization, come in and assess your cybersecurity posture, basically, and give you an accreditation of a certain level. This is also going to affect what type of contracts you get. So remember I said there's 5 levels, 1 through 5. If you only have like a CMMC level 1 certification, you're going to then be limited to only bidding on DoD contracts that have a level 1 certification. So if there's a RFP that comes out that says you need to have you should have a CMMC level 3, you will not be able to bid on that if you don't have that at least a level 3. Okay. One thing I want to also caution everybody about, I said 2026. So some of you probably said, oh, I got time. Not really. This year, DoD has identified 15 contracts that they are putting CMMC requirements on. Next year, they're going to identify another 75. Each year it goes up. By the time we get to 2026, there will be over 1,000 DoD contracts that will already have CMMC certifications on them. It's just that 2026, all of them will have them. And we have already started seeing with our primes that we work with, they're coming back to their subs, which is primarily small businesses, and saying, hey, look, if you don't have your at least NIST SP 800-171 self-accreditation done right now, we cannot do business with you. And they've already said, you know, when the gates open and these C3PAOs are starting to do the accreditations, you all should be ready to get them, because we will not keep a sub if they can't attain the accreditation. So the type of effects, yeah, you know, if it could be terrible in that, especially for small businesses, especially for minority businesses too, losing those contracts. And if you know anything about government contracting, when you get into the federal space, DoD contracts, that's like your golden goose. That's what everybody wants to get a hold of. And even though you may not do business with DoD, if you have any thoughts that you want to do business with the federal government and get a nice, you know, lucrative contract, I would caution you to remember, when it comes to security, physical or cyber, DoD is the tail that wags that dog. So whatever DoD does, most likely the government's going to follow on. I already told you, GSA is looking into this. Department of Homeland Security is already looking into this. Once they get done, then the other departments of the federal government will want to do that. But also keep in mind that this is a flow down effect. And when you look at the CMMC for DoD, it's not just about my business that I have to be concerned about, but I have to also be concerned about what other businesses am I doing business with? Do they have an accreditation? So this is going to go, this is like a domino. I predict within 15 years, there will be some kind of frameworks that are going to be required. I was just at a conference a couple weeks ago. Insurance, business insurance companies, the companies, I had a long discussion with a company called Chubb Insurance, a major small business or business insurance goods provider. They said they too are looking at a framework, the security framework that they're going to require their insured companies to have. So this is getting serious. This is not something to take lightly or to sleep on. Eventually, cybersecurity, like I said at the very beginning, it's becoming mandated, it's becoming required.
Great. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And thank you, Luna, for that awesome question too. Regine, I know that you had a comment actually on what we were talking about before about the shortage of cybersecurity professionals and really how to get into the industry. You can go ahead.
Say is, you know, there's a passion. You have to have a passion for the industry. Am I muted? No. You have to have a passion for cybersecurity, information assurance, technology as a whole, right? I know that what I've seen as well as part of the shortage, one, as we all mentioned, we don't usually step up and say, yes, I volunteer for the opportunity, right? The other thing is that we're not adapting because we're thinking, oh, we have to go back to school, math. Some people don't like math. There's different necessities of discipline within cybersecurity that you can get yourself involved in. And when we're looking at the shortage is really because the threat landscape is increasing so rapidly that companies need specialized skills, right? We could talk about penetration testing. That alone is just a title. And underneath it, there's like 10 or 5 to 10 different aspects that you can look into to even, you know, qualify or do penetration testing as a whole. And then what other subs that you got to look into. So there's different understanding. Getting into the industry, one is passion, because it's not a 9 to 5. I can attest to it. We all can, right? It's never 9 to 5 because you have to keep abreast of it. It requires, you know, collaboration amongst your peers as well that you need to get into. And yes, you know, you have to, you know, say yes and do that, because sometimes we don't apply for things. We don't go to things because we think we don't qualify. And how do you know you don't qualify if you don't try it? And throughout, you know, the past couple of years, you know, you speak in, people are like, well, how do you do it? I said, well, I just get up on the stage and talk. And they're like, well, no, that's not what I mean. Well, we all have butterflies, right? But at the end of the day, as Ebony mentioned, is to go back and speak and be a face and be, you know, so that others can see, oh, well, I can do this, right? Because at times we don't get involved into certain things because we don't see someone that looks like us. And yes, sometimes there's daring ones, and I'm just going in and see what it means. But we're looking to, if we see someone, that's why you see a lot of we're talking about it, going to schools, do mentorship, and involving other men, women, to get into it. One of my good friends, the other concession, well, you have to have had this career in college and started off in engineering and in some form. One of my good friends, and now she's a top CISO, a global CISO, right? Which is a chief information security officer, for application and DevOps, right? Development and application. She used to be a hairdresser, but why? Because one of her clients was reading a book, and curiosity, right? We have to be sometime to jump into the curiosity. Just do it, right? Sorry, Nike, I'm not, copying things, but no copyright to Black Orlando Tech, right? But sometimes you just have to ask the question. She just asked this client of hers a question. Hey, what are you reading this book for? And he said, well, I'm done with it. You read it and let's talk about it next week. And lo and behold, who knew she had this skill set that was innate and hidden, just because she asked that one question and took steps towards it, right? You could ask a question, but if you don't put action behind it, where are you going to get? Nothing, right? So, and now guess what? She just got awarded last year, or the year before, recognized as top 100 global CISO, right? A chief information security officer. This is the enchilada, as we're saying. Jonathan was mentioning about the CMMC of security, and then of course you have data privacy and all that. But this is a major step. But guess what? There's different aspects. Is to really want to understand what you're love and passionate about and apply it, because everything has technology attached to it. So everyone is needed at some shape or form. Just be curious enough to attempt and try it and do what you need to, and see what it feels like, right? And you won't know until you try. And that's why I tell myself, well, how do you speak? Well, I just get on stage and get it done. Why? Because it needs to get done. If someone doesn't do it, who's going to do it? And that's where we have to move away from that. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the skill set is really because every time you look around, there's a specialist that needs to be that comes out, and one person cannot do 5 work. You get burned out. So, but as you move forward, is jump, be curious, and do what you need to do. One more thing I just wanted to add on to Jonathan had mentioned within the CMMC. It's not an overnight process, right? It especially as you mentioned, amongst minority businesses and small businesses as a whole, it is a long-term process to even call a C3PAO to come and actually do an assessment, right? So, and once you get it done, doesn't mean you call them and automatically. There's a process in place as well to make sure what you put in place to get done. So 2026 is around the corner, because September is here already, right? 2022 is a couple days away, the way I see it. So start the process now, start understanding what you need to do, and assessing what levels you get into. And as you mentioned, it's already out there, it's being enforced. You just probably haven't received it yet, but you will receive it very soon. And then you just have to show documentation and how it needs to get done. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Kelda, I know that you wanted to mention something.
No, just wanted to say this is awesome. I'm so excited to be on this panel and to get this insight. And I did think that Nikia had some additional insight to share. So Nikia, we'll toss it over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to just chime in one more time, because I thought that some of the resources that we currently have at NIST, especially our special publication 800-181, it's like a workforce framework, and it's definitely it will tell you like the different knowledge and skills and abilities needed to complete some of the like the roles in the cyber field, and I've used it, and I think it's definitely a valuable information for any business trying to build or recruit talent, and for really for any person also from entry level to senior level to take a look at that. And I don't have access to put anything in the chat, but I'll make sure that that link is shared.
Thank you so much. That would be awesome. So I guess we have time for one more question, and I'm going to just go ahead and throw it to Jonathan and Ebony, and we'll start with you, Jonathan. So what everybody thinks of cybersecurity, they think of somebody in a dark basement on their computer with a hoodie on or something. And we know that there's a lot more to it than that. So what do you think, or what would you describe some of the different roles are that somebody can fill within cybersecurity? And do you feel that the current cybersecurity professionals are prepared to help bring these guys up to speed?
Wow. Okay. Okay. For the second question, do I think the current professionals are able to bring up the younger this generation up to speed? This is a question I ask myself a lot, and I keep coming back to I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And the reason for that is several reasons. Number one, like Nikki mentioned earlier, cybersecurity attacks happen all the time. Everybody talks about the Colonial Pipeline, or they'll talk about the storm winds, but there are a lot more that happen. Okay, some of them are reported, some of them you don't hear about, some you have to go to special places. But like I think over the last year, there were over 345 major security breaches. All right. So I say all that to say is that because of the lack of cybersecurity professionals right now, with all the activity that's happening, what we're starting to see, especially in the larger organizations, is there are jobs, tons of them, paying very, very well, crazy amounts of money. So the professionals that are in the field right now, from that perspective, aren't really incentivized to leave, to go to teaching or to training. So the next thing is, to leave that high paying position to go into training, you're probably going to take a pay cut, and those professionals probably aren't going to want to do that. So are they motivated for that? Also, I'm not trying to lump everybody together, but a lot of cybersecurity professionals don't have what I think the soft skills that are needed to be effective trainers. I've sat on a couple of classes just to audit them to see if they were good for me to recommend to clients. And I've actually looked at some of the instructors, and I'm like, wow, you just blew through that topic, didn't you? Never mind the fact that everybody in the class has this blank stare on their face because they have no idea what you said. And finally, the lack of training skills. So I have to say, I'm not sure. There are some really great cybersecurity trainers out there who are professionals who've taken on the responsibility, the honor, I like to think of it, because I'm a former technical trainer myself, of teaching, but there's a lot that didn't, or if they did go, they're probably not wanting to. Now, to answer the first part of your question about the types of jobs, you're right. A lot of people have this vision of like war games, or people are sitting in these dark rooms typing away and programming and all this other stuff. There's a lot more to it. I mean, you have, general roles like security analysts, security engineers, security administrators, cryptographers, cryptanalysts, chief information security officer, which was the story that Regine was just talking about. Those type of people. You have, basic security consultants and specialists. There's also specialized roles. So if you get in there in the cybersecurity, there's other things you might want to be doing. So perhaps source code auditor, virus technician, penetration tester. Also, you all may have heard them called certified ethical hackers, information security analyst. There's also a dearth of leadership positions out there. The CISO is the top one, but there are other leadership positions in cybersecurity that are available that somebody can go into. And also I have a group I call the paraprofessionals, right? They're going to be a part of cybersecurity because that's what they do. So people, but they're specialized. So I'm talking about project managers, technical writers, business analysts, auditors, assessors, but their focus is on cybersecurity. And we're starting to see those things. So there's a lot of different roles that are available. It's just up to, like was mentioned earlier, finding what you like to do. Don't think you have to be a programmer or a developer or anything, find out what's your skill set. What do you love to do? And like Regine said, you better love it. You better love it. Those 16-hour days are no fun, if you're not loving it. So, and also, don't look at the pay. Yes, I understand people need pay and they want the pay, but don't look at that, because if that's your only driver for getting into cybersecurity, unfortunately, you're going to most likely burn out and you're not going to last. And that's my comment.
You
Awesome.
only
Thank
16
you.
hours, Jonathan? Come on. You take time to go have lunch or something?
Wow.
Well, you'll have lunch, but
I got 3 screens just right now trying to figure out which
4
one.
screens eating a sandwich,
Oh, yeah. It's a fine line between informing people and scaring them away. Come on, guys, don't do that. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for that. And Ebony, I just, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so I'm going to co-sign on soft skills, because usually that's why I'm brought in, because I do have understanding of the engineering part, and people in technology, sometimes they're very methodical and they are flowing in their skill and they are not communicating. And so I think that's where a lot of issues occur. But I'm hopeful for this younger generation, because I'm seeing, because I look at software a lot for a standpoint of evaluating and determining if our clients can use it, need it, etc. And so there are people or young people that are developing things all the time. There was this conversation that was taking place in a tech group that I'm in was using MySpace back in the day when you would change the skin on your MySpace. Was that considered coding? And so there was this back and forth conversation about how people are copying and pasting different code. And so that's not really coding. And so now you're kind of having like the same thing happen. You have people are developing software to use with TikTok. They're having software development with Facebook. So younger generation, they are on the computer. They are doing things. They're figuring out ways how to get around certain parameters to be able to watch Netflix. I mean, there's so much hacking going on right now from the younger generation. I just feel like they need the guidance so that they could do it in the right way and that they could be on the right team. And so I really want to encourage us that we do see that young person that is into technology, whether they're just looking at their games, whether they're just looking at anything that is interacting with someone else, where they're doing it through a device, encourage them to like direct their energy to something much more productive. I actually see the younger generation being able to stop a lot of the hacks, but it's going to be our generation that's going to be able to help guide them and get them in the right direction. So when I think about all the different industries that we focus on and protecting that are considered critical infrastructure to the government and to our country, I think that if the young people knew how they could plug into each of those, they care about protecting our water. So how can we show them how they can take those technical skills and apply them to protecting our water? They care about being able to get to and fro on the interstates, and that's another critical infrastructure. So let's show them how they could do that. And so I think it's going to be us as in our generation, in our era and time, being able to go back and say to them, you've got this interest, you're concerned about this, you like technology, so let us tell you how you could do it. And so I know NIST has it, CISA has a framework for employee, and so I just can't stress it enough that we have to spend that time with the younger generation to get them to direct their energies into the right place.
Excellent. Thank you so much. This has been a fantastic hour with some terrific cybersecurity professionals. And I'm so glad that you guys were able to share your insight with the community. We definitely don't want to leave you where you are now. We want to be able to reach you. So let's go around and can you guys tell us how we can connect? How can the community connect with you guys? We'll start with you, Regine.
Awesome. We could visit us on our website, rbadvisoryllc.com. Always look for me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. And we just, be more than happy to connect. I'm more than happy to connect. I love to share the knowledge, install into the next generation, because that's the key, right? So please connect with us or give us a call at 407-794-5668. And we're more than happy to have a conversation.
Thank you so much. Ebony?
So you can find me on LinkedIn and Ebony Vaz, and I'm really good. If you connect with me, I am known for dropping links in for information. So if we connect and I understand what you do, if I see something that applies to you, I'll send it over to you. I really want to encourage you to get involved, whether it's in InfraGard, which there's different chapters across the US, which works with the FBI. And so you can really get some good information there. I also encourage you to seek out ISC Squared and continue just to ISSA. I mean, there's so many different organizations, but really back to me, right? Connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll send any information that you want, especially if you're looking to get into the industry.
Terrific. Thank you. Nikia?
Yeah, so the best way for anyone to contact me is on LinkedIn. If you do send me a firm request, I definitely will take time out to speak to anybody that wants to have a conversation. And again, that's the best way to contact me is through LinkedIn. And thank you all for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jonathan?
For me, one thing I wanted to add real quickly is, when we're working with the younger generation and trying to get them interested in cybersecurity, make sure we're also showing them the money. Don't just, treat them like an unpaid intern and having them doing all these things and all. You want to keep them on the right side, right? So we want to make sure that we're also showing them the benefits of the work that they're doing and studying for. If you want to connect with me, the best way is email. I believe it's in the chat. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. It's always good to keep in touch with me. We're always hiring different roles, especially with the IT Assessments Division. We're always looking for new cybersecurity talent. So if you reach out to me, you'll get a response.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And in case you guys didn't all have to memorize those links, don't worry. We will share them if we haven't already shared them. I'm going to go ahead and throw it right over to Kelda.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gabe. And thanks to our esteemed panelists. This was a super, super engaged conversation tonight. We may even have to do a part 2. So we'll talk about that to get everybody back for a round 2 conversation. But did want to make sure that everyone knows that there are some actual cybersecurity opportunities available to you if you are interested. So you'll see there on the screen from our executive director, Rose Legis. She's sharing a couple of open opportunities that are available that BOT has some connections with. So if you want to learn more, or if you want to get connected with those, please reach out to Rose at blackorlandotech.org, and she will certainly get you all the information that you need. All right, family, until the next time we connect, which will be at the end of the month for our tech and healthcare discussion, be well, be safe. We love you guys, and we'll see you next time. Good night. Bye, everyone.